Welcome back to the Midnight Gospel, where we fall asleep into dreaming of being there in our favorite Bible stories. Tonight, we begin with the story of Moses and the burning bush from Exodus chapter 3. These aren't sermons. They're stories retold slowly to help your body rest and your soul come home back to God. This video was made to help you drift to sleep while drawing near to something holy. Even if you fall asleep before the end, the story will keep walking with you. You don't have to listen closely. Just let it settle into your breath, deep breath in and out. Let the story watch over you. You are safe here. Right now, nothing is expected of you. No need to remember every word. Let this moment be simple. Like folding a blanket at dusk, stay if you want, wander if you need. Only your quiet matters here. The fire is just beginning to glow far off behind a slope, and if you drift off, it will wait for you. The hush remains. Let yourself breathe gently now. With the slow piece of holy ground in the distance, you're allowed to rest. The story will remember you. He woke before the sun with a mind still half dreaming. Around him the air rested cold and thin, held close by the dark. The linen blanket was scratchy but familiar, pulled up to his chin. Soft fibers tickled his face when he breathed in. He lay there a while, unmoving beneath its weight. The gentle pattern pressed into his skin, nothing urgent at all. A little light crept into the tent, slow as the first easy breath of the day. It landed on the floor, making pale lines across dust and stone. Out past the edges, something shuffled, maybe a sheep, maybe the wind. It was too early to know. Moses let his thoughts drift like that, not reaching for the day, just letting it arrive. He stretched his feet, finding the hard ground beneath woven mat. A twist of cool air through a small gap in the tent. His hand brushed the rough seam where two cloths met. He turned onto his side, feeling for a moment how the world still waited, everything holding its place. Even the shadows seemed at rest. The first sound, barely there, was the brush of wool against a wood post. Then a tiny stir as a lamb nosed through dry grass. Moses listened, and his breath found an easy rhythm, slow like the morning. He let it fill the space, soft and steady. Every inhale brought hints of old smoke, sheep's wool, the cool tang of stone. There was dust, too, ancient, fine as flour, settled in corners and along the lines of his palms. He sat up slowly, folding his blanket, careful not to wake the quiet more than he had to. The cloth felt rough between his fingers, threadbare in places. Each fold was a small act and nothing special, but it mattered somehow. He placed the bundle to one side where his walking staff waited, patient and ordinary, close by the entry. His sandals, worn to the shape of his feet, waited as always at the doorway. He slid them on, feet meeting rough leather, and he paused a moment, pressing toes into the cool, packed earth. The sun hadn't reached this side of the mountain yet. He liked that, the slow delay, the way light first found the sheep, then the rock, then, finally, the place where he knelt to start the fire. He poured water from a clay jug, the sound muffled but comforting. He listened to it fall, slow and careful, into a chipped bowl. The rim was cold, gritty with a bit of sand that never quite came off. He dipped his fingers in, brought a little moisture to his dry face, and let the chill awaken him, not quickly but gently, piece by piece. The camp was silent but not empty. Every sound had a shape, sheep shifting as they woke, wind flickering at the tent's edge, Moses' feet scuffing in the dust. He cleared a spot for the morning fire, and the stones felt cool, heavier somehow just before the day began. There was the faintest trace of last night's smoke hidden beneath the dryness of morning. He took his time, hands smoothing the earth, mind on nothing in particular. If God was anywhere, it was in the quiet, and Moses felt it. Some small, echoing notice, but it asked nothing of him. He breathed it in with the dawn, and that was enough. Let this moment stretch, even this silence is holy. The day waited for him, but only just. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The morning starts the same as always, cool air, quiet and waiting. My hands reach for the sack of flour for no reason but habit. The cloth rubs between my fingers, rough and familiar. I let a scoop of grain fall into the bowl, then another, not rushing, just letting it happen, grain into water, water into grain, slow circles mixing in the quiet, flat bread again, like every day before. I pat and press the dough, slow and soft, as if pressing out the night from its folds. Again and again, press and fold, press, fold, let it breathe. I pause and wait. The dough rests. The whole room seems to rest too. A silent crackle from the fire, it's nothing special. Just the usual pop and hiss from twigs underneath the stone. I sit close enough to feel the morning warmth, not so close that the heat stings. I break off a ball of dough, flatten it with my palm and then with the heel of my hand. Over and over, press, turn, flatten, listen. The dough grows wide, grows thin. Sometimes it tears and then I start again. I turn it. I press it. The movement is the same as yesterday, the same as every other quiet morning on this side of the mountain. My mind wanders, but not very far. Everything here is slow. No hurry. No voices but the little sounds, hands pressing, twigs burning, dough sighing as it hits the hot stone. I watch the bread take shape. I wait for the bubbles to rise and the edges to curl. Not fast. Nothing in a rush. The air smells warm, alive but plain, like earth and ash and grain. I turn the bread again, careful with the burning edge. It's too easy to scorch if you lose patience. Best to hold steady, to let the heat do what it must, gentle and unmoved. The only prayer is my breath, steady in and out. The only liturgy is this circle, dough, stone, fire, bread, once more and then again. The fire's sound fills the silence. A little snap, a soft settling. Even this moment stretches. Even this silence is holy. I sit beside the heat, waiting, watching bread bake slowly as if nothing depended on it, and maybe nothing does. Still, I wait. I flip a new piece on the stone. Press, turn, wait, press, turn, wait. Sunlight slips across the floor. Sometimes the loaf is lopsided, sometimes it's perfect. Still, I make what I can. Still, I keep turning. It's good enough. The patience is the prayer. No one speaks. The mountains say nothing. The brush stirs just a little. Even the birds seem slow here. The day will keep moving, but for now there is just this. Flour, water, fire, turning, waiting, the smell drifting through the still house. The hush around the fire is a kind of notice. It sits with me while I work. I can almost imagine something divine is here, quiet, watching, patient, not needing to rush me along, content to share the silence in the gentle work of simple bread. Let this moment stretch. The night will listen, and maybe God remembers even this. A small bell rings when the pull of the rope reaches the old stone mouth of the well. It's just the clay jar nudging against the edge. Early sunlight doesn't reach all the way down, but the water at the bottom is dark and still. Moses stands by the rough stone, sandals already damp with dew, waiting on the morning. His hands are steady. He lifts the rope hand over hand. There's no hurry on this hillside. Each pull is a slow circle. The rope is rough and the water jar drags up from below. Sometimes the wind carries a hint of sheep. Sometimes it's quiet enough to hear the pebbles settling under his feet. When the jar rises, beads of water cling to the clay. Moses tips it toward the sun, just a little, to see the light move on the rim. He does not speak. His breath falls in and out. The water is heavier than it looks. He lifts with care, guiding the clay to the ledge. There's a comfortable ache in his arms now. The air is cooler near the well. He finds himself standing still, just listening to the hollow space where the jar was. He can smell the earth. The sky is wide and clean. He carries the jar, one careful step at a time, across the stones. The weight steadies him. Some days it feels like the world is held together by carrying things: water, bread, hopes so quiet they don't make a sound. He breathes out and the silence opens wider. There is nowhere else to be. Across the slope a goat's bell rings once, then falls silent. Moses keeps moving. The jar is pressed against his side, arm wrapped around it. Each step leaves a dark mark in the dust, an easy trail if anyone cared to look. He does not count the steps. There's a rhythm that lives in his bones now, and it moves on without thinking. Sometimes he remembers Egypt, the city noise, the metal, the rush of sandals in the palace court. Here, time moves differently. The morning stretches out and folds itself around each movement. He dips his thumb in the water to cool his forehead and smells the clay, deep and steady. Nothing answers him. The hush is gentle. When he passes through a patch of wild thyme, dew brushes against his ankles. He lets it be. There is no reason to hurry. The sun won't climb much higher for an hour yet. He passes close to a cluster of stones where spiders have made their webs. Morning air tangles soft in the grass. Moses keeps his eyes low. In the old city, people used to scan the horizon or look to the palace clock. Here, there is only the stretch and return of breath, only the slight give of each step under the jar's weight. The shadows roll slowly along the ground. Moses stops for a moment. He sets the jar on a flat stone and lets his shoulders fall. It's easy to be still out here. No one calls his name. No tasks shout for attention. The only request is to stay with this job until it is finished. The water waits. The mountain waits. Moses listens to his breath moving in and out. Even that feels borrowed, like a prayer almost spoken. He runs his fingers over the clay, a small chip here, a line worn down by years of use. He thinks about all the hands that have drawn water today and before. Mothers pulling water for soup, grandfathers carrying it for gardens. He will not remember these moments as special, yet they build the day, stone by stone. There is prayer in it, though no one hears. He pauses and lets the silence fill him. His heartbeat slows with the hush. Time drips just as slowly as the last bead of water running down the side of the jar. Every breath is smoothed out, gentle and long. He lets the boredom settle, knowing it is holy somehow. Stillness holds the world together when no one is looking. In the calm, Moses feels noticed, not by people but by the quiet itself, by the way the wind moves, by the light caught on water. Even this, hauling water in the ordinary morning, feels seen. He does not offer thanks aloud. He doesn't bow his head. He breathes and the air is enough. Moses lifts the jar again, both hands circling the clay. The water inside sloshes quietly. He feels the coolness work through his arms. One step, another, dust clings to his feet. No one is watching, but his heart opens a little, just from the task being simple and real. He does not rush. There is only the way forward, only the ground, only the air filling his lungs. Sometimes a memory tries to rise, a voice from long ago, or the rush of river reeds where a basket once floated. He lets the thought roll through, not holding, not weighing it down with words, just letting it pass like a pebble dropping in a deep well. The everyday quiet folds over him again. When the jar grows heavy, he pauses. He lets his back stretch and his gaze drifts up the mountain. In this moment, there is nothing to do but be here. The water waits. Landscape and labor become the same thing. Moses feels how the job shapes his day, emptying him out, filling him up again and again, just like the jar. Sometimes the work only feels like work. Other times it becomes part of him. The world slows to the rhythm of his steps. He begins to notice small things. The glint of quartz in the sand, the hush of air moving past his ear, the way the jar presses into his hip. Each detail holds more space than he thought. Each step is a kind of prayer, unspoken but real. After a while, the place where he will pour the water appears. It's only a hollow made by hand, not much to see. He kneels, sets down the jar, and listens to the water move one more time before it's spilled. The sunlight settles slowly, barely warming his shoulders. There is no rush. No voice calls out. The quiet stays with him. His breath matches the stillness. Moses looks up for a long moment before pouring. He waits, almost as if someone will say his name. No words come. The water pours. The job is finished for now, but already he knows the task will return, again and again. It's what keeps him steady. In these small things, a soul finds its way home, one slow step at a time. Let this moment stretch. Even this silence is holy. The night listens with you. The road always looked the same by noon. Dust light as flour rolled over Moses' sandals, filling the spaces between his toes. With each step, a small hush rose, then settled as his foot found the earth again. Step, breath. Some days it seemed the world was made of two things only, stones and sky. The hills in the distance never hurried closer, blue and brown beneath a sun that pressed down on everything. His feet made their own quiet music. Scuff, pause, inhale, exhale, just the steady patience of walking. There was no wind this day. Even the bushes rested, thin and tired under the weight of the heat. Shadows disappeared, tucking themselves beneath rocks or the fold of a cloak. All around, stillness tucked itself into each corner, waiting for something ordinary to happen. Step, breath. Moses noticed how breathing followed walking, as if the road itself kept a quiet rhythm under his ribs, in his chest, in the soft pad of his heel on the stones. He did not count time by the sun, but by each piece of road released behind him. Even sighs found their place between steps. He asked for nothing, and still felt full. Sometimes he thought he might drift away in this sameness. But comfort crept in along the edges, in the small sameness of each moment. There was no rush. The path did not care how quickly he crossed it. Each breath matched each step, gentle and sure. Step, breath. The goats wandered ahead, tails flicking off small worries, pausing now and then to chew at dry brush. Moses watched their slow chewing, the rise and fall of their sides. All creatures here knew the pace. He matched them, noticing the way the sound of his walking softened everything else. Step, breath, nothing needed to be solved. He'd left early, before the shadows had finished stretching. Now the sun was everywhere, on his shoulders, in his eyes, making the air shimmer at the edge of his vision. Still, the earth never changed much. The press of stone underfoot, the sweep of dust, the little clatter when pebbles moved under his heel. He let the routine hold him. Inhale, exhale, heel to toe. The sameness of the desert asked nothing of him and in return offered a kind of peace. Even the sounds faded, swallowed up by the warm hush. Step, breath, the world grew quieter as he moved, not away from anything but closer to stillness. There was space for small prayers in such a walk, not spoken, just carried quietly in the chest near the heart. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. Moses didn't try to make sense of the road ahead. He let his walking be enough. Step, breath, the road kept steady, and so did he. You can let this moment stretch, too, breathe with the rhythm of walking. Let your mind drift with each step. Let the sameness comfort you as it comforted him. Even this silence is holy. The desert listens with you. And the story keeps moving slowly with each breath. And every step, the sun is not high yet. It just spills over the edge of the rocky hills, warm but gentle, slow as pouring oil. The grass here is thin. It pokes up in tufts through hard dirt, enough for the sheep, though they don't seem to mind. They know how to find what is good, even when it's spread thin. Most mornings, Moses stands quiet. His staff is a walking stick more than anything, a way to lean or to nudge a lamb back from the edge. He watches the flock spread out before him. They move slowly, heads low, noses in the grass. Their wool is dusted in light, soft, almost cloud-like in the brightening air. One by one you notice the sounds. The little bells tied around two necks, almost more whisper than chime. The hush of hooves as they find their path. Sheep bleat, but not all at once. A single note, then nothing. The air stretches in between. Even the dry wind seems to press each sound down, gentle and muffled. It's tempting to think of the day as empty, a field too quiet to matter, but quiet shapes everything out here. Moses leans on his staff and breathes in. The sheep do the same in their own way, slow and patient. There's work, of course, walking the field, keeping watch, counting by pairs, but none of it hurries. No one is waiting for the sun to set. The grass won't grow faster if he worries. Moses learned the shapes of wool, the way each animal chews or blinks or stops to rest. Some are stubborn. One old ewe stands too long beneath the same dry bush, her bell silent, head bowed. Moses lets her stand. It's not always urgent to keep things moving. Sometimes a lamb wanders close and Moses runs a hand over its curly back. The wool is much softer than it ever looks. Even in drought there are pockets of green, tiny oases the sheep know before he does. Their trust is easy. It feels peaceful to just notice all this, the sun, the grass, the listening part of the job. Further out, a stony slope glints silver, warm with the morning. Beyond that, more quiet hills. Moses walks slow, keeping the sheep in sight but never chasing. When he whistles, it's more a habit than an order. The sheep lift their heads, then drop back to grazing. The field is big but not wild, safe enough for wool and hooves. The landscape makes its own safety, slow, steady, simple. Sometimes he thinks of Egypt, of sand and shouting, of crowds. Here, there's just the soft weight of the crook across his palms, the gentle tug of the sun on the back of his neck. Even hunger feels smaller, distant. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Time unfurls in pieces. The bell, the wind, another tuft of green. The sheep follow shade, then sun, then shade again. They pause, sip at a creek that barely trickles. Moses watches and waits. This is all he's been given to do today. It is enough. Let this moment stretch. Even this silence is holy. The night might be far off, but already the day feels tired at the edges. Moses lets it be. The sheep settle down when he does, folding their legs, lying close in the soft brown grass. Nothing urgent. Only this breath, this patch of earth, this flock, this quiet. The Lord notices. No one else has to. A soft bell carried on the breeze, let it settle into your breath. Even this, just tending sheep, can bring you home. It is noon, the kind of noon where the sun seems to linger, pressing its warm hand on every stone, every patch of dry grass. The desert air is still, stretched thin across the rocks and sand. Even the small brown birds are quiet. Only a single feather shifts near my foot before coming to rest again. Moses doesn't speak. He never does, not at this hour. He sits where the scrub brush offers a thin promise of shade. The color of his robe blends with the dust, soft earth colors. Faded, a long day's walk already presses on his shoulders. His stick rests by his side. No sheep to chase for a moment, just a gentle creak as the old leather strap at his sandal gives way to the curve of his foot. In this hot stillness, even thoughts seem to slow down. Words soften and float away before they ever leave the tongue. Work is forgotten. Somewhere, a goat coughs, but then there's only the sound of a pebble tumbling down the slope, and then nothing at all. Let this moment stretch in the distance. A little wind stirs, but it doesn't reach us. Dust lifts and falls silently as though it changed its mind. Time for a while becomes heavy in the air. It settles on us, makes even a simple breath feel measured and important. The quiet feels like a blanket, thick enough to carry the weight of the world. It's not that nothing happens. The sun moves, one slow finger at a time. Shadows, thin and long, shift over Moses' hands and the stones around him. If you watch with him, you notice the way light leans a little, then settles into another angle. He closes his eyes, not to sleep, but to listen closer to the hush. Silence takes on a pattern. It begins to swell and fall, almost like gentler waves. You hear the echo of your own heartbeat if you wait long enough. There are soft voices far down the slope. Someone drops a water jar and it rolls, rattling, then finally stops. Moses doesn't move. He just breathes. He waits for the sound to fade. Let even the silence become holy. The noon air thickens. The sun, high above, gives everything a faded, gold-white look. Time stops counting forward for a while. There is no after, just this hour, slow as honey. Every living thing draws itself into the smallest space of shade or silence. Maybe that's why even the crickets hold their song. Moses flexes his toes in the dust. He doesn't wonder about what comes next. Sacred things, he once heard, do not hurry. Sometimes he traces little shapes in the sand with a stick, not letters, just small circles. Small things matter at noon when you let them. Sweat rolls, cools, dries on the neck. A fly lands, then lifts off again. Everything is patient. There is a sense that something could happen, but also that it doesn't have to. The sacred can wait. It likes to arrive when you are not searching, not straining your eyes. Time seems almost untied from the day. No one expects Moses to be anywhere else. Let this drowsiness be enough. Out past the stones, heat dances above the ground. Mirage, a trick. When you have nothing to do, it's easy to watch, it's easy to let your gaze drift. A single cloud crawls across the sky, thin as a prayer. In this hour, Moses is just a man, a quiet one, feet dusty, breath slow. The world holds him gently. He is noticed by nothing, and yet somehow by everything. No one calls his name. He isn't asked to move or decide. The only requirement here is to breathe, to feel the coolness of shade, even if it is small, to remember a time when rest could be this simple. Let the weight of noon carry you just for now. He asked for nothing and still felt full. If you want, you can close your eyes too. The world will keep moving, but softly, gently past you. Sand will settle, shadows will slip down the rocks, and Moses will rest here a little longer, waiting for the next quiet thing to come. There was a moment when nothing needed to happen, except to sit and wait for the shade to move. I remember the hush on the mountain, how the late afternoon pressed the air down until it was very still. Moses leaned against a stone, his sandals resting nearby, toes curled in the dusty ground. No voice in the wind, just the heat and the breath between things. Someone, maybe it was a helper or just a neighbor, opened their basket and took out a piece of fruit. The skin was firm, not perfect, not shining like a king's feast. It had a dry, warm roughness holding the sunlight in its shape. With slow fingers, the fruit was split. A quiet offer, not spoken, just reached out, open palm. No one said it was enough for a meal, but it was enough for now. Moses took half, and the juice was sticky, clinging softly to his thumb, the way sweet things do when they're not expected. There was no rush to eat. The taste surprised him, gentle at first, then a little brighter, like water after long thirst. Even here, almost an afterthought, there was fullness. No blessing whispered aloud, just the simple way two people can share the weight of a day by sharing sweetness. No one looked around for more. They just let it last, the way cool shade lasts until the sun moves again. Each bite brought the sounds of small life back, sheep adjusting in the hills, the brush crackling as it cooled. Moses brushed his hands on his knees. The juice left a faint shine, a reminder, soft and unnoticed, of God's small provision. Not a miracle, not a sign, just enough, right now. There's something restful in knowing the fruit was offered quietly, in a world where so little felt certain or safe. No one asked for more. He asked for nothing and still felt full. Let this moment stretch, let the taste linger, sweet and slow, between your teeth and breath. Even this silence is holy. The night listens with you. This is all there is for now. Enough for a body, enough for a soul. The tiniest gift, holding all the tenderness of heaven resting in your open hand. As you settle, let it nourish you too, in the hush beside the flame, and let it keep you company long after you sleep. The day lingered on the mountain, never quite deciding between morning and afternoon. Moses sat with the dust and tiny stones cool against his legs. He listened, not for anything in particular, just to the sounds that filled the air when you have nowhere urgent to be. In the soft space below the ridges, voices drifted up, the sort that belonged to travelers holding lanterns low and letting words slip between their feet. They weren't close enough to see or even to name. Just a slow sweep of talk, rising and fading. He heard the laughter first, soft and almost apologetic. Then heavier words, maybe about a meal or the ache in their backs or home. Nothing important, everything sacred. He did not move to meet them. It would break the moment. Instead, he let their voices pass through, never clinging. Even as the sound reached him, it was already leaving, like the taste of warm bread swallowed and gone, no crumb left behind. For a breath, the voices colored the emptiness with gentle hope, a reminder that other lives continued, even here, that somewhere out there, someone else also watched the slow sinking of the sun and wondered if God ever noticed one small footstep on this earth. They passed entirely, folding back into the distance. Silence rolled in heavier than before, as if the air had learned to be even quieter. Moses almost heard the earth breathe, relieved to be empty again. He let the hush take him, wide and deep. He did not fill the silence with words or plans. He counted the soundless spaces between his own thoughts. A single bird hopped close, silent too, just glancing at him, then moving on. Even the rocks seemed to hold their breath. Sometimes Moses thought the world makes a gentle noise just for you, and then just as quickly asks you to let it go. He half smiled, not wanting to disturb the stillness. He felt like the last one awake at night in a city of sleeping lanterns, holding on to nothing but air and the small hope that listening is enough. Let this moment stretch. Let the silence widen. Even the quiet after the voices is holy. The night listens with you. The afternoon spread slow, wider than two arms could ever reach. The hills are quiet, folded under the weight of the sun. I stand for a while, not moving, not thinking of anything in particular, just breathing, just watching the sky. It's big and pale, empty almost, except for one or two clouds drifting slowly, slower than a yawn, slower than a sigh. You could count your heartbeats between their movements. Sometimes it seems like nothing happens for hours, but even the stillness is busy in its own small way. I feel the ground under my feet, warm but rough. The wind doesn't rush here. It just hangs around like a friend who sits in quiet so you don't have to fill the space with words. The emptiness is gentle. Each breath comes easy, in, out. My hands are empty. Sand clings to my palms from earlier when I scooped up dust to let it spill through my fingers. It felt like holding time itself. One small pile, running out but never really gone. Looking up, everything feels so open, like the world took a deep breath and left space for something soft to come near. The sky doesn't press down. It doesn't ask for anything. It just waits with you, listens with you. Sometimes silence can be loud. But today it's different. It's a blanket. I wrap it around my shoulders, trusting not to fill it up with stories or plans. Even the sheep in the distance seem quieter, as if they're following an old rule: be here just for now. If I close my eyes, the light behind them is still blue, still open, still enough. There's nothing to solve, nothing chasing. The quiet is a steady thing, like a breath drawn in and held just before you let it go. Even the air feels thick with presence. I can't see it, but I notice it in my chest every time I inhale. I let each breath slow me down, even more, noticing the small pause before I exhale, trusting in the emptiness in the space. I wonder if Moses felt watched here, not with eyes but with kindness, not measured but remembered. Even his sandals off, feet flat against the earth, he was known in the stillness. I flex my toes to feel the dirt, smell the sun on my skin, count clouds again, even though they haven't truly moved. Evening will come when it wants, not before. The empty sky keeps its promise, it stays just as it is. Each breath is a soft opening. In, out, I rest my eyes on nothing in particular, seeing far but thinking closer, feeling a gentle hand beneath the silence. The world feels patient. My worries grow slow and small in the hush. It's not empty here, not really. Something holy lingers in the gaps between thoughts, in the still sky, in the quiet that refuses to be hurried. Let this moment stretch unrushed. Even this silence is holy. The night listens with you, the path climbs. It doesn't ask, it only leans forward, an old habit of the land. Rocks press up through thin brush. The dirt is soft in some places, crumbly in others. Each step is felt through the soul and the skin and the silent hollow of a sandal. Moses walks slower now, not because the slope is steep, but because there is no reason to hurry. The morning sun is off to the side, not hot, not faint, just there as you'd expect on any nameless hill. You can hear his breath, slow, steady, a rhythm rising with step, falling with silence. In step, out breath. Stones shift, and the sound is the sound of an ordinary mountain remembering its own name. There's space to think, or not. Every step is a soft question. Every answer is only more quiet. The grass pulls back for a while. Earth opens up with its own hush. No one watches. Even the birds seem to hold their feathers closer, listening for something holy they can't see. Let this moment stretch. Moses touches the ground with his heel, then toe. The stones accept his weight without protest. The sound is almost nothing, a memory of wind, a loose pebble, a lonesome note carried from yesterday's pasture. Sometimes there's dust. It settles around his ankles, holding on for a breath, then giving way. He walks as though the hill needs time to wake, too. Breathe in with him. Breathe out slowly. Step, step, pause, as long as it takes. No destination, only the feel of moving without running. His feet grow warm. The air is soft with the smell of sage and dry grass. Once in a while, a small stone rolls away, not far, just enough to remind him that even the ground shifts beneath us. There is no hurry. The day waits, the sky is patient. Let even silence become your companion. He pauses, not to look, not to listen, but just because pausing feels good. He fills his lungs. The world holds its breath. No miracles yet, only the sacred work of walking, one foot then the other, threading worship through the spine and the arch, the heel, the toes, every part of the body learning the hill's story. You can join him if you want, or just rest by the side and feel the cool stone at your back. Let anticipation be easy, not a race, not a prayer in a rush, but something slower, something God-shaped in its waiting. Stone, breath, sandal, silence. Each one a step closer to somewhere holy, where nothing is urgent, and still everything matters. He sat on the edge of the rock for a long time. The ground, still warm from the afternoon sun, pressed soft into the arches of his bare feet. His sandals, dusted and cracked, waited in the quiet, set just beside him. No sound but the evening breeze moving through the brush, soft as a hand smoothing a blanket. He remembered each movement, how he'd slipped the knot free, slow and careful so the leather wouldn't snap. One sandal, then the other. He placed them down, side by side, a thumb trailing over the worn strap for a moment longer than needed. That simple act felt like kneeling, but gentler. The earth cooled beneath his toes, a hush that wrapped around him. No fire, no heat, just the steady, living quiet. The hush seemed to come from within the smallest branches, from the shade beneath the thicket. The kind of stillness that fills up all of you, even in the places you didn't know were waiting for peace. He waited, sandals off, with nothing to say. His breath matched the slow rhythm of the night, lungs filling and emptying. The way his mother once sang him to sleep, long ago. He felt noticed without being called out, seen in a way that asked nothing from him, except maybe to stay and let the silence settle in. He folded his cloak, careful with the corners, smoothing a wrinkle, letting himself notice the weight of each fold, one and then another, savoring the pause between. Before he lay down, he pressed his forehead to the back of his hand, whispering so softly not even the stones heard, "Stay with me here, Lord, quietly. Stillness holds me. The Lord knows my breath. I am not forgotten." God walks slowly too. Grace finds me even here. My silence is enough. Tonight I am surrounded. Amen, amen, amen. He slipped his sandals off quietly, as if not to wake the earth beneath. Leather dropped in the hush, folding softly beside him. The slope under his feet was cool, woven with grains and pebbles. He pressed down, not in a rush, just standing, the way you do when you don't quite know what to do next but want to stay a while. His heel brushed the sand. Dust stuck, a little gritty, but it didn't matter. The ground was neither hard nor soft, a middle place holding him up. Every part of his foot learned a new memory. The night air, the gentle press of stone, the faint traces of roots. For a moment he felt only this, like the world had shrunk to the narrow space between his arches and the stirring earth. Let your breath come in quietly like Moses, surprised by the coolness under each toe. Let your own feet rest where they are just for a moment. Nothing to hold, no step to take. Only the simple weight of being alive, even far from cities. Even with nothing but rock and brush and stars, the ground was alive. He felt it through the pads of his feet, maybe the way trees hear the wind or dust listens for rain. The mountain whispered a steady, silent welcome. He inhaled slowly, not knowing what to pray. The air felt as new as the ground, a little sharper, rising into his chest. Exhale slow, like the silence stretching past the fire, past the bush, past all the thoughts he brought from home. Breathing made him feel less alone. Each breath pressed his feet a little deeper, as if the earth itself was steadying him, holding all his worries for a while. Let this stillness spread with you. Let your breath and the ground do the work together. There's nothing you need to figure out here. Just grounding, just presence, each foot a quiet promise that you are here, and that is enough. The fire crackled somewhere close. Not much happened. He shifted his weight, feeling small bits of sand give way. The land didn't change, but he did, a little more rooted. Sometimes noticing your own feet is all it takes to wake up inside your own story or drift a little further from it as sleeplessness fades. He thought about where else his feet had wandered. Fields, shallow creeks, the swept floors of home. Here, though, there was only wilderness and holy presence in the form of simple dirt. To be barefoot was to be noticed, known, quietly chosen for this stillness. Let your own body settle. Feel whatever supports you, however small, a sheet tugging over your toes, a mattress beneath your heel, the hush of a pillow. Let gravity and breath meet like skin and earth. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The bush burned, but the ground simply held him up. No need to run, not even to kneel. How strange, he thought, that the closer you are to the earth, the closer you feel to something higher. No one noticed the prayer he whispered, barely there. Even if he forgot the words, the earth would remember the shape of his feet, the gentle press, the waiting, the slight tremble in his toes. God's nearness was not in thunder, but in dust and breath, cool stone and living hush. So for now he stayed, whole, barefoot, rooted on holy ground. Let your own breath become as even as earth. The night listens with you. And if your eyes are heavy, let that be okay. God meets us where the story slows, where we breathe with the ground, and nothing needs to move but the heart, gently, in the quiet. For a long while nothing moved. Not the goats, not the brush, not even the thin mountain wind. Moses stood alone, his hands loose at his sides, sandals already left behind. Dry pebbles rested beneath his heels, still warm from late sun, but now cool as the air grew soft around him. He could hear his own breathing. It filled the space where sound used to be. For a moment the hush was so deep, it felt almost unfamiliar, as if quiet was something you could run into and touch, like a stone or the smooth curve of a water jug. There was a fire, yes, but it didn't crackle. Its light was gentle, flickering, but never desperate for attention. The flames just held the bush, the way a shawl might be draped over a branch, sitting quietly through the changing light. Moses watched, and that was all that was asked. Just watching. The pause was enough. He didn't step closer or turn away or shape any questions in his mouth. The world had stopped asking things of him. Even his thoughts thinned like mist around the ankles. In that empty space he didn't feel small or large, not lost, not found. He just was, and it was enough. Once Moses would have filled silence with motion, kicking dust, fussing with a strap, humming a tune. But tonight even his urge to act faded. Each breath drew in the slow, holy pause. Each exhale gave it back, folding the moment over and over like cloth at rest. Above, a hush pressed the night flat, a silence so clean it made the world new. There was no hurry to move, no timetable to meet. Even the breeze bent itself around the fire, gentle and waiting. Every blade of grass seemed to lean in, just listening. He felt the pause, not as emptiness but as presence, like the sky's wide gaze or the way a friend sits beside you, asking nothing, just making room. He realized it was a kind of being noticed but without effort, held in attention yet needing no reply. He could have stayed for hours, certain the bush would keep burning, quiet as dawn. He didn't pray with words. He didn't need to. This was a different kind of talking, a meeting not of voices but of being truly seen. Every inch of air was full and shining. Every second stretched, wide enough to rest inside. In that stillness, Moses heard nothing, and somehow it was everything he needed to feel. Let this moment stay. Let this silence hold you, even now. The night slows with you, and nothing is hurried. God is here in the breath between each thought, in the softness that gathers when the world pauses quietly, just to notice you too. The fire dies down, or maybe it keeps burning. Moses stands still for a while, longer than most would think. His feet are cool against the earth. There's dust on his toes now, but he does not notice. The sound of the flames isn't loud, just a soft crackle, like dry grass snapped by evening wind. He does not look back at the bush. He only stands breathing in mountain air. Nothing rushes him. He picks up his sandals by the straps and lets them hang from his hands. The night shifts all around, barely noticeable. He carries the silence with him. One slow step away and his shoulders do not feel lighter or heavier. Everything is about the same. The staff still sits in his palm. He carries the silence with him. It is not a burden, not a word to remember, just the quiet that settles into his bones, the kind of quiet you don't notice until you move away from it. He listens to the pebbles under his feet as he walks. Each one turns a little, sometimes slipping aside. He lets this sound stretch out, steady and empty. There is no hurry. He carries the silence with him. In the distance, a sheep coughs. The animal has found a thicket and lies half asleep. Moses turns his head to check on it, but the bush is already behind him, hidden by a rise in the land. The stars stay in their places, unmoved by burning bushes or bare feet. The world feels the same, but Moses knows the quiet now. He can tell when the air moves differently or when the hush grows full. He waits before slipping his sandals back on. There is dirt between his toes, still cool from dusk. He brushes it away, slow and careful, like folding a piece of cloth. The silence is not a secret, but it is not for telling. It is just there, alongside him, like another shadow. He carries the silence with him. He walks the long path down the mountain. It is not steep, but he takes his time. Each footfall against stone reminds him of the bush. The brush of his staff on gravel is a new kind of prayer. No words, just rhythm. He lets his breathing slow. He lets his chest be heavy and light at once. If a thought tries to come, it leaves quietly, without asking. He carries the silence with him. Nothing waits at the bottom of the slope. No one notices when he comes back. The sheep are dozing. The fire he left smolders in the circle of stones, making a line of smoke that fades into the night. He sits. He feels the ground cool against his legs. No thoughts crowd in. Even his hunger waits at a distance. There's flatbread left, but he does not reach for it. He keeps the silence nearby, the way you might keep a lamp close in the dark, just in case, not shining brightly, only present. He carries the silence with him. He remembers the moment, but only in the shape of how it felt, the way the air trembled, how the bush did not burn up, how he heard his name spoken once in the quiet and again in his chest. Still, no words remain. There's no story to tell tonight. Only a kind of fullness, nothing asked, nothing offered, just the feeling of being seen and let go. He asked for nothing and still felt full. The sheep rustle in their sleep. He listens for their tiny bleats and slow breaths. The sky feels bigger but not unfamiliar. He lets this too settle. He lets the night hold him, as if the earth makes room for the weight of something unspoken. He carries the silence with him. A moth lands beside him on a stone, its wings open and close. There is a quiet between even these small movements. Moses does not move the moth away. He just watches. He lets the moment stretch, letting the silence take up the whole space around him. He carries the silence with him. He does not try to speak. No words are needed now. The fire at the bush still lives somewhere behind his eyes, but the quiet is even stronger. Calm, steady, not empty but full. Sometimes a silence says more than any voice. Tonight, Moses lives inside that quiet. He carries the silence with him. He lies down. The sheep settle around him. Even the moon seems slow, not rising quickly or falling fast, just holding itself in the sky. The night listens with him, the silence thick and holy. He carries the silence with him. Tomorrow there may be work. The sheep will need water. Someone will bake flatbread, sweep the stones clean, fold the blankets. But tonight he has nothing to do but rest. Let this quiet fill his body, slow his breath, let the emptiness be holy. He carries the silence with him, and the silence carries him too. References: Exodus 3:1-6. There is a softness to going home. Moses steps carefully downhill, the mountain's dry ground holding him steady. The sun hangs low now, leaning sideways across the stones, painting them with pale honey and thin streaks of gold. Each footfall is quieter than before, as if the mountain wants to hush the day's memory, letting it cool and stretch out softly in the fading light. The world feels gentler when the climbing is done. Shadows grow longer, stretching his own shape far ahead, thinning out along the path, folding into the folds of the earth. The brush is crisp and gray at the edges. It crackles just beneath his feet, sometimes startling a beetle or two who scurry deeper under gravel for cover. Nothing else rushes. The day is in no hurry to end. Around him, the slope dips slowly, as if the land itself is letting out a long breath. The wind has quieted, only flickering through nearby thorns, barely enough to move a loose strand of hair, hardly enough to chill the skin. Moses' steps find their rhythm, his sandals loose and easy, leaving shallow imprints in the reddish dirt. He thinks for a moment about taking them off again, the memory of holy ground still warm beneath his toes. But he lets them be, simply noticing the difference. Every stone reflects some piece of sunset. Little ridges flash with pinkish amber. Smoother rocks look almost purple where the shadow is thickest. For a while, it's easy to believe the whole world is touched by a slow, careful hand. No part of the slope too small or unremarkable for this gentleness. The mountain, his feet, the earth itself, all held together under the steady light. Moses lets his arms rest by his sides. There's no need to hurry, no reason to hold anything tight. He notices a small curl of smoke in the distance, the kind that comes from someone's evening fire, not from miracles or burning bushes. It smells like goat's wool and a supper set to simmer. The ordinary welcomes him back, quiet and sure. The horizon grows dim, banded with soft blue and faded apricot. A single bird cuts across the sky, gliding with almost no effort. Shadows lay smooth over the path, suggesting where to step, though Moses would know the way by feel alone. He doesn't need to think, just follows the slope, one deliberate foot after another, as if breathing with the land itself. There is comfort in being small again, just a figure heading home, dust at his ankles, sunlight pressed thin against his robe. The bushes and stones do not ask for his story. He asks nothing of them either. The quiet grows deeper, as if even the mountain wants to sleep. Your own breath might slow here, tracing the calmness of this descent. Each step is a settling, a letting go. The sky darkens. The light on the slope turns tender, both golden and gray. Nothing is needed. The day is closing itself with careful hands. Alongside Moses, whether in spirit or in imagination, you can listen to the stillness. The mountain remembers every footstep but lets them fade behind you. You are free to walk slowly, to let the last light find you, and to be noticed by this gentle, unhurried dusk. Even this silence is holy. Let the moment stretch. There is a hush that settles over the camp when the sun drifts low. The wind pulls at the hem of the tent, gentle and unsure. Shadows stretch quietly. In this lull, I carry the water jar in both arms, pottery cool against my waist, a comfort and a weight both at once. I pass by the familiar stones. I know every loose pebble, the smooth places where countless feet have walked before. Maybe, earlier today, I fetched this same water. I can't remember now. The path does not change. There is always dust hitching a ride on my heel. There is always the jar pressing cool into my palm, ready for whatever evening will ask of me. At the well, dusk gathers in the hollow. Crickets begin to whisper. The echo of clay meeting stone is a small music, steady, soft, reliable as sleep. My fingers dip beneath the mouth of the spring, water climbing against my skin. It feels colder now than in the heat of day. Each movement is deliberate, ordinary. I fill the jar, wait for the bubbles to settle, then fill it till it brims over. Nothing hurries here. Every day the same things, the same steps, the same cool of water rinsing away the heat. The same gratitude nestles in the slowing world. The water is here. Again, we are not forgotten. I press my forehead to the rim of the well just for a moment, feeling the earth's kindness in the chill. Other voices drift past but do not linger. No one notices this small return. The climb back is slower. My arms ache but always in familiar ways. The jar touches against hip and ribs. The campfire's light is visible now, small and anchored in the dusk, a promise, or just the ordinary signal that the day is winding in on itself like thread. Water for washing, water for drinking, water splashed gently into a cup, cool and round, quietly mapping my breath. There's a rhythm here. Pour, return, fetch, carry. The sound of night settling is the same sound water makes over stone, repetitions not to be rushed past but to be lived inside. Maybe Moses listens, too, somewhere close. Maybe he draws up the trickle and lets the chill wake his fingers to the holy nearness of earth. Tasks return, evening after evening, whispering that home can be this. The shapes of hands in the same chore, a small wet cloth pressed to the forehead, the way the stars sigh into the night. I find the ground underfoot, still soft from the sun's warmth. Cloth settles over my shoulders. The jar stands full, waiting for nothing special, just another slow return, another promise kept in the turning world. I find my rest in these cycles, the Lord near in every echo. Water, evening, again and again. He asked for nothing and still felt full. So did I. The lamp is lit. The mountain's shadow leans close. The quiet is not empty, it's enough. May you let the water cool your hands. May you feel the calm of night circling familiar tasks. May this gentle repetition steady your breath until sleep comes, just as water returns each evening to the well. By now the sun is lower than before. It sneaks long, dusty bands of light along the walls, falling over the floor where I kneel. Bread, again, finds its place in my hands. It isn't special bread, the way children hope for something sweet. Just plain, simple, the same as always, that's steady. There's quiet comfort in steady things these days. I pull the cloth back from the loaf. The warmth floats out and meets the cooler evening air. Not much to see, just bread and cloth and the same rough plate. But the scent is almost the same as this morning. That good, grainy smell. a toasty crackle under the crust. My hands know this, folding, reaching, tearing what's needed and not more. It's not different, but it lets me breathe. I can feel my shoulders loosen. There's something soft, almost secret, in the way repetition moves through a day, the same quiet shuffle of my feet, the same way I brush a crumb off the table, the same sun looking different because it's lower now, but it stays with me. Every step, every breath, every loaf is a little prayer, hidden but heard. I look up, noticing shadows stretching longer now. My hand moves over the bread, fingers leaving tiny dents. I don't rush. Why would I? The world is slowing too. Birds have settled, their songs are softer. The fields outside hold a hush, like they know not to disturb the end of the day. The floor creaks under me. The plate settles as I set it down. I pull a rough stone bench closer and sit, not because I am tired exactly, but because sitting feels right. Like closing a book or turning the lamp low, bread warm in my hand, air cool on my face, the pattern of the day turning gently, calmly again. Sometimes I think of the bush Moses saw. How quiet it must have been, except the faint sizzle of branches burning but not burning away. Maybe he was making bread before he climbed the hill. Maybe, after all the noise had drifted, he just stood for a little while, holding something warm and plain, tasting the ordinary holiness of hunger answered. Tonight feels like that, plain things noticed. Bread passed from hand to mouth, simple and enough. I eat slowly, tasting the faint salt, letting it settle in me. No hurry to finish. No need to talk. The old routine cradles me. Sometimes I wish someone would ask, "Do you taste the sacred in this?" But I know they don't need to. The holiness sits between the cracks and the crumbs. I let my thoughts drift, slow as the evening. A little smile. Not for anyone, just for the bread and for being here. Outside, the world keeps winding down. I let this moment stretch. I let this silence hold me. The Lord sees even the smallest, sleepiest surrender. Nothing special, but everything needed. And the bread always quietly returns. The day has emptied itself out. Sun is mostly memory, its warmth tucked behind the low stones. Not much left to do except finish what little remains. Work that asks for no voice, just hands and slow breath. Tonight it's just me in the back of the tent, tucking small cloths into order. The others linger near the embers, trading stories in soft voices. I listen from a distance, my tasks quiet as footprints in dust. I lift the first linen, thin, pale, and holding the faint scent of the hillside wind. It has lines from being worn and smoothed, lived in and washed by other hands before mine. I lay it out, smoothing the creases that gathered through the day. Folding starts the same way. Every night the first edge folded over, then pressed along the seam. It's slow, steady, the cloth yielding not because I rush but because I wait. With each fold, the crumpled fabric falls into itself, meeting its other half, like hands meeting in gentle worship, familiar, quiet, belonging together. There is more to this work than making things neat. It's a kind of listening. While my hands move, my thoughts slow, breathing with the steady movement. Folding becomes a small act of care, as holy as kneeling in the hush before dawn. Each line pressed smooth is a silent hymn, a prayer disguised as habit. The dust from the day settles as I work. My fingers catch on a rough edge, a patch sewn by a loved one many weeks back. I smooth it gently, remembering the conversation that passed between stitches. Folding feels like holding time itself, the day closing itself up, every tucked corner settling a little more of the world in its place. For a moment I pause, the cloth resting in my lap. The quiet settles around me, thick as evening air. No rush, no reason to hurry, nothing here demands attention or applause. Even the hum of the night outside lulls softer. I fold as if I am gathering the day's stray words and stray worries, pressing them flat, tucking them away, leaving only stillness behind. Order grows on the pile beside me, each piece layered atop the last, measured by hand and memory. It calms the room. It calms my body. I fold as someone might bow their head or close their eyes, each movement a moment of laying something down that will be picked up tomorrow. The world is still wide with questions and noise outside. But inside here there are only hands and breath and fabric. The worries of camp, the steps of animals near the hill, the long unspoken prayers, they settle. I lose track of the outside things. It's just the hush of cloth, the small blessing of holding what I can and letting go of the rest. Some nights it feels like folding a letter you'll never send, a holy act not for show, but for the peace it carries in your bones. I press the last bit into shape, corners sharp, edges even. The finished stack looks small, unimportant, but it's enough. This too is worship, hidden behind the common work, sacred in its stillness, like incense that never leaves the tent. There are no words for this kind of prayer, it's all hands, moving slow, pausing often, honoring silence. Some prayers are loud, but most are like this, quiet, unnoticed, quietly catch and release. Work might be how we speak to God without knowing it, putting things in order, finding peace in each simple act. When Moses stood before the bush, he took off his sandals, not out of fear, but out of wonder. A soft response to being noticed by God. I think about that sometimes, folding cloth, how holiness can find us in the careful smallness, in the patient tidying of our days. A single fold, a small surrender. God finds his own way to sit beside us, saying nothing, asking nothing, except a little more quiet. I don't know if anyone sees this, but it holds me. The fabric, the folding, the night's cool hush, each one gathers me up like a friend who doesn't hurry you home. I finish the last piece. The basket is full. I rest my hands. Somewhere the fire outside fades. The voice is thinner now, sleepy. I set the basket aside, knowing tomorrow will loosen the folds all over again. That's all right. Order is never permanent. It only lasts till morning and then we begin again. Each night we pray our prayers disguised as work. Each night we fold the world into something gentle enough to lay down. The day is done. I breathe in and let it all settle. There's a prayer in my hands even now. Something simple, just this. Thank you for the quiet, for the order, for the peace. Amen. The night listens with you. Let this moment stretch. Even this silence is holy. There's a kind of hush that settles just before darkness. I was smoothing the last bit of fabric over the table, careful not to wake the crumbs. A small clay lamp waited on the edge, its belly dry. The sun had faded from the stones. The corners, still warm, held the last color of day, but everything else was letting go. I found the oil, thick, golden, shy in the tin pitcher. It gurgled quietly as I poured a thin line into the lamp, the way water fills a hollow tooth. The lamp was small. My thumb measured its rim without thinking. Everyone's hands knew these shapes. I could have weighed it with my eyes closed. Olive oil, with its memory of branches and fruit settling smooth at the bottom, cool on the clay. Nothing moved except my breathing. There was a moment before the wick caught when the world held its breath with me. My fingers felt clumsy, but the act was old. Twist the flax wick, dip it in oil just enough for the end to glisten, flatten it with the pad of a finger. The lamp's mouth waited, open, patient, a quiet promise of light. When the wick met the flint, a thread of smoke wavered, then, finally, flame. Small and private, nothing to announce. The kind of light only seen from a few feet away, as if it belonged to my hands first and then the room. Its glow was softer than a moth's wing, a trembling yellow pearl. Shadows stretched longer, the way cats do in the evening, gentle with nowhere left to go. Shadows in the corner picked up, turned lazily, and set themselves down again. The busy noise of the day was replaced by this soft, uneven breathing. I watched the wick drink oil. The light floated just above the rim, a little golden tongue, curling and uncurling whenever I moved. When I breathed out, the shadows breathed too, swaying as if they'd listened for a long time and wanted only to keep listening. It's easy to forget when the world gets dark how much room there is for gentle things. One flame, almost too faint for a story, becomes enough to soften everything. The walls, rough with years, took on a kind of honey. My hands, folded in my lap now, turned quiet and gold. Even the simple things, pot, sandals, bowl, looked kinder in the glow. You could almost believe nothing hard would cross this threshold again. With each slow blink, the lamp flickered. Its rhythm was uneven, the way you rock a tired child, never quite the same way twice. Flame makes its own language. Sometimes it collects itself and stands tall. Other times melts in half, curls below the lip like it's shy. The ceiling caught a tiny, wavering dance. Lines of soot so faint, you'd think they were drawn by a finger half asleep. I watched these patterns, small and hypnotic, like understanding the heartbeat of the night. I settled beside the lamp. It was not bright enough to do anything, not good for reading or sewing or looking for what's lost. It was only enough to show where one thing ended and another began. My foot on the mat, the jar on the shelf, the half-open door to the night air, just enough to keep you company while the rest of the world faded from importance. Even the oil made its own slow story. The smell was soft, something like pressed grass, salt on skin, distant fruit left on the tree. I turned the lamp once just a bit to see the meniscus move around the curve. The flame chased my hand, then returned to its place. I could almost hear it speaking low and friendly, reassuring me without words. This was the hour when the mountain turned blue outside. Beyond the open window, stones and scrub melted together. The lamb was asleep, nose tucked into its knees. I heard only my own breath, mingled with the tiny sigh of the lamp. Farther down the slope in Moses' camp, other lamps would be lighting, one by one. Everyone's glow different, but the same small courage against the night. The lamp's light did not argue with the darkness. It sat within it, patient content, a cup of warmth in a sea of cool. Sometimes I thought about how much drama people expect of God. But when I watched the curve of that flame, it seemed enough to just let it burn, slow and faithful, asking for nothing except to be. Outside, the horizon grew dark and honest. This is how all things grow quiet, not with answer or applause, but in the hush after the last word has left the room. The lamp marked this border, softening what was harsh, coloring what was plain. My shoulders loosened. The light became more difficult to separate from my own drowsiness. Each shadow leaned quietly into the next. The little lamp worked without struggle. There was no hurry in this glow. The room shifted from color to shape, from shape to shadow, from shadow to something felt, not seen. Sleep announces itself this way. Edges undone, promises softened, the world turned gentle with uncertainty. My head dropped closer to the straw pallet. The light stretched, then blinked. Sometimes I think I could live inside that moment, the moment before sleep, with oil burning low and the day having spoken all it needed to say. No thunder, no lesson, only the hush of needs being met. The lamp doubts nothing. The clay, the oil, and the flame belong together. I listen to their conversation, soft and wordless. My eyes closed and I imagined Moses on his mountain, his lamp blinking too, his sandals empty by the rock. The holy thing is never loud. The miracle inhales, not shouts. Meanwhile, the oil burns down with patience and my own doubts find rest in the hush. You do not have to hold all the light at once. Sometimes a small flame is a sanctuary. Shadows come and go. The oil will be enough for now. And so will you. He stands just at the open door where the inside air meets the mountain night. Sandals in his hand, feet pressed to cool dust. There's no rush. Inside is quiet, a dim glow, the smell of old wool and bread. Outside, dark slopes hush beneath the endless sky. The door is just wide enough for breath to pass between the rooms of his life, nothing more. Moses does not cross. He doesn't need to. The wood frame presses a soft line against his shoulder, a gentle reminder. Here is the edge. Not inside, not out. He lets it hold him, lets the stillness crease in the middle of his body like cloth folding over itself. The air is thick with night. It moves softly around his ankles and up his arms. He listens. For a minute, that's all, just listens. There is the crickets weaving, the faint rhythmic scrape, rising and dipping in grass farther down the slope. Every so often, a small pebble shuffles, disturbed by some small creature no one will see. Beyond that, the distant, measured cry of a lone owl folds in and out. Its call is round, not sharp. The reeds whisper when a wisp of breeze finds them. Sometimes the wind brushes the door so gently, it almost asks permission to slip through, bringing the faintest taste of smoke and wild thyme. He hears the mountains breathing, the long, low hush of air cooled by stone, a splash once from an unseen animal by last season's gully. He does not wonder what comes next. He does not plan. Only the sound of his own breathing, a bit slower now, drawn longer, folded into the darkness. His hands rest quiet against the frame. Sandals dangle, forgotten, at his side. Nothing asks him to move. God has said nothing, but the silence tugs gently, like a question that doesn't need words. Moses feels as if he were being noticed, not for what he should do, but only for being here. It is enough to linger. The night is not empty after all. Everything that breathes is noticed. The moths tapping against the lintel, soft as fingertips, the hush of olive branches shifting, endless and slow, the ring of a pebble tumbling far down the path. In the distance, a chorus of unseen sheep shuffle their hooves, shifting together as one. The door stays open. Moses does not pray aloud. He asks for nothing and still feels full. He is neither leaving nor entering. There is no lesson here, just the holding of a moment, quiet at the threshold. He listens to the dark, and the dark listens in return. Let this stretch light from the room spills onto the step, then fades into night. Every sound, every stillness is folded into the hush. Even if you are only listening at the edge, you are gathered up too. The Lord walks slowly, and the night waits, and even silence is holy. He sat on a flat stone just outside the circle of firelight. The chill of night settled along his shoulders, quiet as a shawl. There was no wind tonight. The stars pressed overhead, silent and unblinking. Close by, his hands rested on the scroll, cool and heavy, wrapped in worn cloth. Unhurried, he unrolled its edge, slow and careful. The parchment let out a soft crackle, like dry leaves turning beneath a gentle heel. For a moment, he just watched the way the moonlight touched the letters. He didn't try to read them. The words were there, sleeping in rows, ink faded to brown from many years. Some corners curled a little from heat, or maybe from the weight of someone else's hands, long ago. Even the scent of the parchment carried a kind of memory, dust, oil, the faint trace of olive wood and smoke. He rested his fingers lightly along the crease. The page was uneven under his touch, each fiber, each line, a silent witness. He didn't need to break the hush with his voice. Having the scroll open in the moonlight was enough. He breathed slowly, letting the cool night fill his chest. Each breath seemed to pause around the open scripture. The word was here, even without a sound. Sometimes the holiest thing is holding something sacred without rushing to explain, just letting it be. He felt the presence in the quiet, just as he'd felt it near the bush that had burned but was not consumed. It was not always the fire, sometimes it was the stillness after. He shifted his foot in the dust, sandals off as he'd learned. The ground felt just a touch colder now. Out beyond him, the desert slept, wide and waiting. There were no lessons swirling, no answers pressing. Only the quiet fact of being seen, being kept company by something more patient than words. A moth drifted near, its wings flickering in the moonlit space between him and the scroll's shadows. He watched it hover unafraid. Its presence felt almost like another verse, silent and complete. He didn't ask anything. The hush was deep enough, the open scroll was enough. Something holy watched with him. The air, the earth, the page itself, each was content to remain unread, to simply be here. It was the weight in his hands, the hush between pages, the moon's silver touch. Nothing needed to be spoken. The word was here just by being open. Let this moment linger. Let the cool air and quiet settle in your breath, even now. With eyes closed, the story waits beside you. Sacredness doesn't always need to speak. Sometimes just having something precious nearby is the prayer. And it is heard. The sand is cool, at the edge of the path. Moses kneels, not far from where the bush crackles and glows. He does not rush in, no sudden movements, no shouts. There is only the mountain, the hush that fills it, and the slow settling of Moses onto his knees. His feet are bare, the ground is rough and speckled with pebbles. The air smells like early morning, a hint of smoke but no danger. Each breath comes easy, slow. There are no words inside him, just the soft pulse of blood and the wind making the grass nod. Something holy lingers, but it does not demand or press. It is gentle, almost familiar. He has nothing to say. He does not try to be wise. He folds forward, resting his hands in the dust. His fingers curl around a small stone, cool, ordinary. It does not matter if he prays right or wrong. No one here to see, no one else to judge. Only the presence and Moses quietly kneeling. Let this moment stretch. He remembers carrying water up this same slope. He remembers tripping over roots, catching his balance, listening to the sheep scatter ahead of him. Kneeling does not change the world or fix his worries or bend the laws of earth and sky. He is not here to ask. He is here because he is noticed. Even in silence, he feels noticed. Behind him, the sounds of the camp fade. The voices from his memories, family, friends, strangers, old masters, are miles away. The world becomes small. Just sand, the bush, and the quiet ache in his knees. Still he stays. He breathes. He does not fill the silence. The branches still crackle, soft, steady, and golden. Nothing special is said back to him. Nothing is needed. Let this quiet be enough. There is nothing to do now but surrender. He lets his shoulders fall. His hands grow heavy in the dirt. The more he sinks into the silence, the more he feels, not important but held. There was a time when kneeling meant fear, when he would beg, words tumbling in the dark, questions burning holes in his chest. Moses remembers that younger man and feels only kindness for him. Tonight there are no questions, only kneeling. He wonders if God listens when no one speaks. He wonders if prayer can be as simple as breathing, without plans, without shape. This night says yes. The wind hushes, the fire does not grow, does not shrivel, it stays, a gentle watching. His knees dig a little trench. The sand cools his skin. He bows his head not out of habit, but because it feels right, like giving his body to the quiet. He finds the border between kneeling and letting go and lets it blur. Sleep draws near. This kneeling is not a task, not a signal for a miracle, not an answer, not a beginning. It is the simple act before sleep. He lets his eyelids droop. His breathing slows. The mountain listens with him. The holy presence does not ask for words. It does not need them. It is here in the dust, the bone-tired knees, the slow fall of evening, the surrender that comes at the edge of night. Sometimes a soul bows down, not to plead, not to promise, but to rest, without fear, without expectation. He asked for nothing and still felt full. You can feel it too if you wish. Let your body soften where it touches the sheets. Let your hands curl the way they want. Let your heart settle into the hush. Kneeling can happen with eyes closed, with breathing faint. Prayer can be only presence, no words, no plans. God notices, even the quiet ones, especially the quiet ones. He does not count the time. He does not know if he will have words by sunrise. He does not worry. The night will sleep around him, and he will sleep too, wrapped in presence, cradled in surrender. Even this silence is holy. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. Even as sleep rises, you are held. The Lord knows your breath. Your quiet is enough. Just kneel quietly and let yourself drift. God walks slowly. Too, the silence will keep you. Grace is here. Amen, amen, amen. The night softened. The air grew heavy and sweet with stillness. Moses stood in the doorway a long while, letting the last notes of day settle onto his shoulders. You could hear nothing but the brush of a quiet wind touching the tent flap, then fading again, leaving even the animals hushed. Inside, the coals glowed orange, small and alive, waiting for sleep. He set aside the walking staff and bent to roll a simple cloth across the doorway. A slow action, nothing hurried, just the gentle final motion of another uneventful day. He nudged a sandal beside the other, leaving both at the edge of the mat. One more small thing. Sometimes it seems a holy night only comes with thunder, or voices, or stories too big to hold, but most nights are softer, and no one marks them. Moses pressed his palm against the tent, feeling the shape of the earth beneath him. A mountain slope, roots underground, cool stones whispering beneath heavy sand. He drew a slow breath, letting the silence fill every space around him. Somewhere outside, a sheep moved in its sleep. A faint star blinked through the cloth overhead. Moses waited for words but felt instead a deep, comfortable hush. He asked for nothing and still felt full. His prayer tonight was not in speech, just in the slow drawing in and letting out of breath. One, then two, gentle, present, letting each moment widen, like standing barefoot on holy ground, even here in the softness at the end of things. Stillness holds me, he let that thought settle, like sinking into cool moss, unhurried, weightless. The Lord knows my breath. He repeated it silently, each inhale and exhale its own quiet confession. He watched the way the shadows stretched and faded, felt his heart slow just a little more. I sleep near holy ground, it didn't seem dramatic, only true. This place, this pillow, these ordinary footsteps. Even silence in the body could be sacred. I am not forgotten. Clouds slid in front of a star. He turned onto his side, eyes half closed, still watching the outline of his hands against the blanket. No one noticed the prayer, but it was heard. This quiet is a blessing. He let the silence become a soft weight. He let the night's hush fold him inside its comfort. Breathing in, breathing out, the word lives in me. Nothing more to be said. The words did their work by not working. He felt each phrase settle deeper, like water soaking into dry ground. Small affirmations, planting roots. God walks slowly, too. He imagined footsteps beside his own, never hurried. He thought how the holy often lingers, waiting quietly for you to notice. Moses smiled, a small curve only the darkness would see. Grace is here, every muscle let go at last. Even the worries of tomorrow dissolved into the hush. He counted them, one by one, and gave them over. As the world softened, the door closed, and the gentle gift of night rose to meet him. Amen. The word wasn't loud. No one heard it echoed. But it remained like a lamp left burning by the bed. Amen. Even if he drifted before the end, the affirmations kept, like footprints pressed into soft sand. Quiet evidence that something sacred had moved through the room. Amen. The stars outside watching, the Lord closer than breath, and Moses at rest in slow, holy night.